Hi Mindsphere, welcome back. Who is an Indonesian who doesn't know instant noodles? I'm sure there aren't any. I think almost all Indonesians know or have even tried instant noodles, one of the most popular foods in Indonesia. How could it not be? Indonesia is the second largest instant noodle consuming country in the world. The world is only second to China, which actually probably has a much different population. 13.207 billion. Instant noodles were eaten by Indonesians in 2021. This figure is not surprising if you see how instant noodles are consumed by all groups, from young to old, workers, boarding house children. Everyone likes it, and you can buy instant noodles. It is indeed a popular food, but behind its popularity, you may often hear various prohibitions or negative things about instant noodles, such as those that cause uterine cancer. Boiling them only has candles. It makes you stupid, and various other negative arguments. But on the other hand, instant noodles. Instant noodles are also a lifesaver, aka a food that saves lives for many people. Not only does it save the stomachs of boarding house children at the end of the month, instant noodles are also a lifesaver for people in emergency situations, such as natural disasters and war. All the positive and negative aspects of this instant noodle might make you ask, what is the story behind the noodles? Instant. Why do many people like instant noodles, and is Minsan actually good or bad? Well, in this one story segment this time, I will collect the story behind instant noodles and invite you to dive into various unique facts and myths about this popular food. So stay tuned. Goreng story until the end. And don't forget to watch one video every day from 1%, so you can get the insight command. Let's try to start from the basic question. Why did someone create instant noodles? Who created this celebration for Java? Let's try to go back to the history of how Japan lost in World War II, and when Japan was completely destroyed as a country after the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings. Its people suffered GTA. Many people were sick and there was famine everywhere. We could even see photos of people who were willing to queue for very long just to get warm ramen as food. Long story short, because of the famine disaster, America decided to provide wheat or flour aid to Japan as a food supply. But the problem was that there was a lot of it, and they were confused about what to use it for. This is what then triggered a businessman named Hopefully. I'm not wrong to call Ando Momofuku. Creating food from the abundant supply of flour was in Siendo's mind. This innovative food should be simple and not complicated, not easily destroyed, easy to cook but still delicious and safe to consume. Why? Because God forbid, if there is another disaster, people won't need tong. Long queues to get food, and what's even better is, if this creation can help give birth to a world famine disaster because of you. It's sad when you remember the post-war era. Parents' cell phones were a rare food phenomenon. Once there was one, you had to queue for a very long time after trying many times for 1 year. You too start. Then it is considered that I deliberately found inspiration when his wife didn't fry tempura soup, a food with a chewy texture when fried. It turns out that it will become dry and last, but when given water, it will be chewy. This is where the inspiration means that the food I made, the process had to be like that. Raw, fried first, then boiled so that it would be chewy. Add seasoning. It seems delicious, said Andre. So in the end, you decided to make ramen, the Japanese comfort food, because according to him, if people were willing to queue for a long time for a bowl of ramen, instant ramen would definitely be very helpful. So ramen, aka instant noodles, became a popular choice. First in 1958, chicken-flavored boiled noodles were called chicken ramen. Long story short, several years after the creation of Andong instant noodles, it turned out that instant noodles were not that instant and practical, especially for Japanese workers who only had relatively short rest times. They had to be quiet by themselves, make the container, which is in some situations, it becomes impractical, and in 1971, Ando again created a new innovation of instant cup noodles, which are much more practical than packaged instant noodles, because they use a bowl and a cup, but the taste is still delicious. Ando's innovation was a huge success in the instant noodle market, which was previously only marketed in Japan. It started to be marketed in America and other countries, and the price was initially very expensive, but because the dimensions increased, The price also went down, and FBN. Your ideals can be achieved. Instant noodles have become one of the life-saving foods for people who are in poverty, emergency, namely war, natural disasters, even when we are poor. Giselle, my wallet is empty. What is the use of instant noodles in saving the world? Well, if you say work, the Instant Noodles Association is a kind of organization for noodle companies. They issued a statement that in January 2021, they issued 6.8 million my supply in disaster areas spread throughout the world. So it has a big impact. Fast forward, Misanto continues to develop and become a delicious, practical and popular food as we know it today. Even every year, there are more than 300 new tastes of instant noodles that appear in Japan and Indonesia. Too may be noticed that almost the same thing. Many companies are releasing various unique flavors that suit local tastes. For example, spicy flavors. Basically, there are many flavors found in instant noodle products sold in Indonesia. For example, in-depth boncabe. As far as I know, they have released 2 types of spicy noodle variants. There are fried noodle flavor level 15 and ramen soup flavor, level 30 luteum. Which one, fried noodles or noodle soup? Hi please Hapson. Yes. Hopefully there will be no debate. It's like porridge that is stirred and not stirred, as if absent in the comments column. Yes, that's how it is. Which might be one of the reasons why my becomes food that is loved by people has various tastes and can be adjusted to local tastes and tongues, including the Indonesian tongue, whose culture may like spicy food. In addition, make it a noodle soup lover. Who here still likes to throw away the water used to boil noodles? Do you know that we actually don't? Need to change it, dude. Instant noodle boiled water. According to the sources I read, the boiled water actually has nutritional value rich in real iron vitamins. It would be a shame to throw it away. So why is it that so many people still like to replace and throw away the water from boiling noodles? So it's like this. Like fried noodles and noodle soup. Actually, there are 2 types of instant noodle making process in the factory. First, deep frying. Second, baking. Well, from the sources I read, most instant noodles produced now still use the deep frying method, aka fried using oil. So the noodle dough is fried so that it is dry and lasts. Can be neatly packaged. Dots and bypass noodles are boiled. We may still see oil residue sticking to them. But it's a different story if the noodles are made using a baking method which from the start doesn't use oil in the manufacturing process. What is baked is the wet noodle dough which is dried through a baking process. In the table oven it is stated to be dry and durable, but does not contain much oil, like the fried version. This is also what makes baked instant noodles healthier than fried instant noodles. When you cook at home before consuming it, minsan tahapan also will not leave oil residue floating in the water. Is there any baked foam in Indonesia? Well, there is also one of them, mie bongkabe, which I explained earlier. And mie bongkabi. This is also made without preservatives and without artificial coloring. If anyone has tried it, please share your experience in the comments column. Now, let's move on to the next question. Are instant noodles healthy? Before I answer, I want to disclaim that I am not a nutritionist. I got this from research results. What Stephen and I learned was just left to be discussed if there were pros and cons. Basically, it's called instant food, so the nutrition is definitely not complete, even though the food you make yourself still has nutritional content. As I read in a study, there is an iron content, can reduce the risk of anemia, especially if there is additional fortification in the product. But of course, the content is only a small part of what our bodies need. Tomorrow's instant noodle line is flour. And the majority of the nutrition Anglo gets is carbohydrates. Even though this is the downside, my nutritional needs are more. From that, there is protein, fiber, and many more. We all know that something that is excessive or maybe too little nutrition is usually not good. Just like instant noodles, which if consumed excessively, can be bad for our bodies. Research is needed on thousands of people. Korea. If we consume too much instant noodles, it will make us have a high cardiometabolic risk, which means at risk of experiencing obesity, hypertension, insulin resistance, and various other diseases. This high risk will make people more susceptible to heart disease or even diabetes. There are even people who do experiments by only eating instant noodles for a week. The results are yes, they are sick, don't care, because yes, there are many other nutritional needs that are not met. And according to many parties who recommend us to eat instant noodles with vegetables and other foods that contain protein rich in eggs or meat, so that our nutritional needs are met. Earlier, I discussed the pros and cons of instant noodles from a health perspective. Now, what if in terms of socioeconomics, Instan can actually be a hero for many people, which I have already discussed, even though it is cheap. It turns out that Instan contains sufficient carbohydrates and several other micronutrients. And this is even interesting. Min1 can reduce the risk of stunting in children. Indonesia. Because there are various kinds of fortifications in the product Instan. If you don't know, this is a slow growth in children which makes children tend to be less tall. From the pluses and minuses of the business world, Badanlah can be the best deals in my opinion, even though it has several shortcomings in terms of nutrition. But with the taste of the packaging, how practical is the way to make it? This innovation from Japan is really worth it given Joy's mixture. Clap your hands first. So the conclusion is, Instan, is it good or bad? Well, actually, each of us can conclude it ourselves. But maybe what we can all agree on is that if we consume everything too often, it will be bad. I won't forbid it. Whoever it is, yes, to eat instant noodles because, personally, I also think eating instant noodles is okay. When we want to eat instant noodles as a daily food as long as we take care of our own health. Everyone has different physical conditions. There are those who are fine. There are also those who may be quite sensitive and react immediately when eating certain foods. So it comes back to everyone. We all must really be aware of the dangers and benefits. Well, there must be positives and negatives. We all must have a choice. Consuming what we want to consume noodles, which can be said to be better, and we can also start and start trying to understand the nutritional content. Displayed on the noodle packaging, one of the UKM that I can recommend is Bon Cabe. That much earlier, I explained that they have a claim that the manufacturing process is baked and does not contain artificial colors or preservatives. Well, you could say that Instan is not the latest solution for nutritional and food needs, but this innovation can be said to have saved many people in emergencies, including perhaps saving us at the end of the month, when we want to eat well on a tight budget. I hope we can enjoy it, including it is also possible to create new innovations that are useful for the younger generation, such as instant noodles, a food that can be said to be delicious, cheap, practical, and useful. In the end, Ivania 1%. Well, thanks.